Right. Thank you, Amanda, for that wonderful introduction, as usual. This is Milk Crates and Turntables, a music discussion podcast, but you already know that because you're listening. We're streaming live right now over YouTube and Twitch. We are on all podcast platforms. If you like this show, let us know. Give us a rating, subscribe. Apple Podcast is changing up the way they do things, so pay attention to that. But yeah, if you like us, tell your friends about it. We have no problem with that. Give us a push. Give us a push. So, without further ado, and if you want to get in touch with the show, drop us an email if you have a show suggestion, a comment, a critique. If you want to say something really mean to my co-host, Jack Calabrese, you could just email us at milkcratesandturntables@gmail.com. That's milkcratesandturntables@gmail.com. Don't worry, my co-host, Jack Calabrese, he has tough skin. His skin is actually like leather. It's actually leather with hair on it. So that would be a cow, wouldn't it? I don't know. Anyways, without further ado, let me bring on here we go. The amazing, the one, the only, the impeccable. Nope. Every week they get me, and every week I say nope. Let's just bring him on, Jack Calabrese.
Hardy ho!
Oh Lord.
What's going on, man?
Do we want to start that over again?
Come on, it's all good.
It's live, so you got to. Nothing. What's going on, buddy?
Oh, little this, little that. Getting excited. You know what this weekend is, don't you?
Let me know.
So what's the record store that is closest to your home?
Oh, okay. I go to the Record Rack in Pompano Beach.
Okay, how far is that from you?
That's about a 15-minute drive, 20. I could probably find one closer, but I like that one.
So new and used? They have new releases?
Yeah.
On Saturday morning, there is going to be a huge line out in front of that place because Saturday is Record Store Day.
What are the releases this year?
There are so many different releases. Lady Gaga, Joe Strummer, Def Leppard live. There's a bunch of old blues and jazz things. There's U2 picture disc. There's a Janis Joplin picture disc. You can go onto the website, recordstoreday.com, and they actually have the full list. And I think it's a couple of hundred. But the thing that's crazy about it, that the line is actually going to be filled with a couple of people. First and foremost, it'll be 99.99% men.
Right.
There's not a lot of ladies that jump in line because men are just idiots. Now, the line of these idiot men are going to be comprised of complete audiophiles, people like yourself and myself that really appreciate those type of things. And then there'll be a bunch of people mixed in that are intent on buying them and almost immediately flipping them on eBay for 5 times the price. So the challenging thing is you got to figure out what is going to be the big money ticket items if you're in it for the money, so to speak. Because those things, and it's not terribly difficult to figure out which ones are going to be the most sought after, the more popular ones. And you have to understand that some of these are limited runs. They may have only printed 500 copies or maybe 1,000 copies. And then there's some of them that are 8,500, 1,000, 10,000, 12,000 and whatnot. So kind of an interesting thing. They do it twice a year. If you're big into vinyl, there's some really interesting and neat stuff. A lot of colored vinyl, a lot of picture discs, a lot of special editions, a lot of live stuff, like you got the Alarm last year or earlier this year. So it's a lot of stuff like that. So kind of a cool thing.
Yeah, Record Store Day always is a cool day. I'm glad they kind of came up with that concept. And I remember around when it first came out, it really didn't have any legs because people weren't really buying vinyl. And that was the intention of Record Store Day, was to get people to go to record stores and buy vinyl. Yeah. And I think it's caught on. And
what I wish that we were in specifically located places because there are bands that really get behind Record Store Day.
Yeah.
Like, you know, when it first started out, like Pearl Jam played in just this random record store in Seattle.
Right.
You know, Dave Matthews set up and played in a record store. You know, people all across the country, the artists really kind of supported the independent record stores and really pushed it. And it's really grown. The list has grown. The artists that participated have grown, you know, tremendously. And again, you know, for if you're a collector, or if you're really into some of those kind of obscure or interesting things that you may never have heard of before, it's kind of a fun thing to do.
I wonder what the Joe Strummer album is. Is it with the Mescaleros, or is it just some like tracks that they found of his? That
I
never
think
got...
it's one of his solo albums. I don't think it's a Mescaleros record, but I'd have to go back on the site. And
That's a great documentary.
Yeah, Joe Strummer. You know, I was on. There's a couple of Facebook sites that are music related. You know, people that love vinyl. That one, and somebody posed a question on it, like, what celebrity death or what musician death hurt you the most or impacted you the most? And for me, it was definitely Joe Strummer. Broke my heart.
Yeah, like Phil Kelly, he's going to get another mention soon in the show, which he always does. He texted me and basically he said it was like losing an old drinking buddy. You know, I think that was wonderfully put and very on spot for that.
Yeah, well,
He's true. But you know who really and I know this isn't the topic. The topic tonight is great final albums, but this might have been this guy's final album. Actually, the one person that affected me, like I was really like absolutely bummed out, devastated, was when I heard, I was at work. I was a printer for Fidelity Investments in downtown Boston, and I was listening to BCN, and they announced that James Honeyman Scott died.
Yeah.
From the Pretenders, the guitar player. That fucked me up. Like I'd never been devastated, like I'd never been hurt like that, or I never felt like I literally just stood there in shock, like what? Because I was a huge Pretenders fan. That, like I said, we've talked about that album numerous times, and I know we have a tendency on the show to talk about, you know, albums, repeat certain albums, but there's certain albums that deserve to be repeated. Yeah. You know, people might think we're being redundant with certain albums, but these albums, there's a reason you and I will continue to talk about them because they serve different purposes, these albums. So when he died, I was just like, that's it. That they were going to be bigger than they ever were, even that any heights that she reached with the, you know, the second band.
He was not just a guitar player. He was an important component of that band. He was the melody guy.
Oh,
and he was a monster guitar player. So I totally hear you. And having the opportunity to actually see him play live, and he was, you know, so young, and it was so, you know, just ridiculous that you know, somebody with that much talent really kind of you know, wasted opportunity, drug overdose, you know, just same old story. And
they say like, oh, if you had a chance to see a band, and everyone always goes like, I want to see Pink Floyd in '74. You know, I would have loved to have seen that original Pretenders lineup. I just would have loved to have seen that.
You mentioned him first, but Phil Kelly and I went to that show together.
Yeah. You guys told me. I saw them with the second band. I saw her with the you know the and I believe
Robbie McIntosh on the third. Yeah,
and I believe at the end of the show, actually, I know you didn't get to see this, but Chrissie Hynde flashed. She dropped her drawers and flashed the crowd. Like
I don't remember that.
Yeah, at the end, she kind of bent over and kind of pulled down her pants and then kind of ran off stage. I'll never forget that. Yeah.
Well, you know, before we leave this,
it wasn't like she stood there and mooned the crowd. It was a quick, you know.
Before we leave this too far, but just, you know, you talk about that being an important album, you know, certainly to us. Just, you know, a somewhat recent story. So, you know, our good friends John and Laurie Watkins, you know, both, you know, musicians, have made their livelihoods, their music, and have really had a great and successful career, both playing live and, you know, teaching music, and it's their whole world. But with the 1,500, 2,000 albums or whatever they have. Their daughter, Janessa, had her birthday, and I actually was going down to Winthrop for a couple of things, and they did not have a couple of records. So I brought Janessa for her birthday, Patti Smith, Horses,
Wow.
and I brought her the first Pretenders record.
There you go.
And I wrote on the card, because, she's a big Harry Styles, Taylor Swift. And I wrote on the card, like, you're probably not going to like these right out of the gate, but if you listen to them a bunch of times, you will absolutely fall in love with these records.
Yeah. That first Pretenders album does not have, it's a perfect album, like I say, perfect album from start to finish. So, okay, let's get into tonight's topic. Great final albums. I think we were originally going to say best final albums, but best is subjective, and in this case, these are great final albums. These are the albums that the bands, that was it. Now, there's some gray areas here,
Sure,
but
sure.
we'll talk about those. So let me jump off on the first one. Maybe this might be the greatest final album. It could arguably be the greatest final album from any artist, and that would be the Jimi Hendrix Experience, Electric Ladyland in 1968. Now, there's a gray area in there because, as they say, and I'm just going to quote this, it gets messy trying to figure out Jimi Hendrix's final album. Band of Gypsies, a 1970 live LP without his longtime backing band, The Experience. It does feature new songs, so that's kind of a funny thing right there. Then there's a lot of albums that came up, but Electric Ladyland, I mean, you got All Along the Watchtower, which has Brian Jones on percussion on that song.
Yep.
Then you have, let me see, what else? Burning the Midnight Lamp. You got Steve Winwood and Jack Cassidy from Jefferson Airplane team up with him on what song?
I will say Crosstown Traffic.
No, Voodoo Child.
That was my second guess.
Yeah.
I was trying to pick between those two.
Yeah, so you got the Jefferson Airplane bassist and you got Steve Winwood playing on that song, right? So kind of look at it a little different now, right? You didn't think you thought it was just him, right?
No, that was back at, in the day. I mean, it was really kind of a cool thing that they all kind of played with one another. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Today you'll see groups like older videos from the 90s. You'll see Sugar Ray and maybe some guys from Limp Bizkit and Korn in like an orgy video. You know what I mean? They were all friends. They all hung out together. Orgy being the group, not the sex act. Okay, for all those people that aren't into '90s music or weren't into that stuff, so they'll hang out in videos today, but they never really collaborate. But Electric Ladyland was Jimi Hendrix's first and only #1 album in the U.S., and it was his final album.
We've said this before about other artists. I think one of the cool things about Jimi Hendrix is that, absolute icon. People not only listen to him, but there are people that are obsessed by him and study him and whatnot. And you look at it. How long was his career? In terms of his solo albums, right? The solo album that he released first, or with The Experience, to the time that he died was what, 3-4 years?
Yeah. So
short period of time.
He
What's
died.
that?
He died when he was 27. So what?
Yeah, he was part of the 27 club.
Yeah. So he was what? Yeah, he started when he was like 23, right?
Yeah.
When he started, I don't know his timeline, but
Are You Experienced actually came out in what I regard as probably the greatest year in rock and roll history. It was 1967, The Summer of Love. So that's when the experience first came out. And again, 3.5, 4 years, whatever it was he was gone. And the
Yeah.
funny thing is, and not that it's funny, but far more releases from Jimi Hendrix posthumously. He's got so much. He was so
Oh,
prolific.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
You had what? Cry of Love, right? That was one of
Mm-hmm.
them. There was a lot of posthumous albums that came out, but technically his last album would be Electric Ladyland.
Yeah, and
So,
exploring different things. Like he wasn't really playing with the experience anymore. He was playing with different musicians like Buddy Miles. Definitely more of a funky band. When he started out, it was more kind of the English guys, and then he moved into guys that were playing American blues and funk and that type of thing.
yeah, yeah. He had the influence on Miles Davis too.
Uh-huh.
You know.
Absolutely.
So, do you got anything? You got an album, or you want me to pick
Well,
another
I'm
one?
not ready to leave the Hendrix thing yet.
Oh, okay.
So here's my question for you, and this kind of deviates from our topic, but it kind of doesn't. Who does the best version of Voodoo Child?
So there's really only two versions, right? There's really only two versions, and you can't tell me otherwise. You have the Jimi Hendrix version, and you have the Stevie Ray Vaughan version. Now, that is that's a fucking coin flip right there, buddy.
Well,
Um,
yeah, I think we both can admit that they're both brilliant.
oh, fuck.
And you gotta give credit for the original, right? The originator of it.
You give credit for the original, but you got to think how big was Stevie Ray's balls to even take that song on and make it his, give it his slight little influxes and tonal changes. Maybe it wasn't an identical version. It might have been cleaner. It might have been a little cleaner, but that song is talk about okay. Talk about great intros.
Yeah.
Oh, we completely missed the boat on that one last week, right? So I have to. I saw Stevie Ray do it live, so I'll just say Stevie Ray Vaughan.
I
I,
I,
I
I
don't think
have
I could be
to.
wrong. I don't think I could
It's
be wrong.
it's absolutely close. There's no question about it. But and I've had the benefit of actually seeing him live as well. But maybe it's the technology. Maybe it was the recording or whatever it is. But he was another guy like Hendrix that when you watched him play, it was effortless. It was like he wasn't even thinking about it. It was just flowing out of his fingers. I mean, just absolutely incredibly amazing. And the guitars that he used and the gauge of strings that he used. I mean, he was just incredible. And I still listen to some of the live versions of Stevie Ray Vaughan playing Voodoo Child, particularly the one from Carnegie Hall. And one of the things that makes me laugh almost every time I listen to that track, when he finishes the song, he goes, "It's fun playing Hendrix at Carnegie Hall." I always love that.
Right.
Always love that.
So his last album wasn't it was is that the one with his brother? This what was the name of the album?
Yeah, the Vaughn
That was
brothers. I
Family
actually think
Style. Family Style.
Yeah, I think that was actually released after he died.
That was released in 1990. Family Style.
So it was on or around the time that he passed.
91. The Sky is Crying.
So
Was
that was kind of the outtakes, and there's
yeah.
while we're talking about Hendrix, I mean he does another great Hendrix song. He does an instrumental version of Little Wing.
Yes, does a great version of Little Wing. Yes, yeah. So, Scott, the IT guy, wants to. He just messaged in, gentlemen. Good evening. Nice to hear some artist names from 20 years ago. Well,
No, try,
tonight.
try 40, dipshit.
Well, I think he's being. When I mentioned Korn and those groups, uh, I think though seeing the tonight's episode of Great Final Albums, the topic, you'll see one from 20 years ago, and let's just jump right into it. One of the great final albums of all time is Nirvana in Utero, right?
Great record. Trying to depart from the fame of the big, classic Smells Like Teen Spirit. Wanted to get away from that and have a darker album. And it is a dark record, man.
Well, as they say, he was famously displeased with his band's grunge-defining opus, Nevermind, right?
Yeah.
So he plotted a weirder, less predictable course for their third and their final album. What did they have on Penny Royalty?
Penny Royalty,
Apprentice.
All Apologies.
Yeah.
Rape Me.
Yep, that they had to change the title, and certain stations wouldn't play it until, what did they change the word to? They changed the word rape to Hate Me, right?
Is that what they did?
Yeah, they said that he had on the radio, and it was Hate Me. Yeah, because it was a little too touchy subject.
Yeah,
so,
but Serve the Servants is a great tune. All Apologies, great tune.
Really, the whole album is good.
Yeah,
right?
Heart Shaped Box. I mean, they're fantastic band. It still breaks my heart.
I
mean, the Cobain death hurts a lot, but I think I've told you this, and I apologize if I've told you this, but up in my attic, in a Foot Locker, in a shoebox, in an envelope,
tickets
are 4 unused Nirvana tickets. Ugh.
Yeah.
Still kills me.
Well, it's not 20 years ago. It might be 30 years ago, but we'll stay in the 80s. I think, and this is a very niche, it seems, group. They're well known, but I don't know how well listened to them. I know there's a lot of frauds out there that claim, oh, I'm a Smiths fan or I'm a Morrissey fan, and they all want to jump on a bandwagon. But the Smiths, Strange Ways Here We Come, is a great final album. I mean, it's regarded as one of their definitive albums. And for Smiths fans, they'll know the track listing. A Rush and a Push, and the Land Is Ours. I Started Something I Couldn't Finish. Death of a Disco Dancer. Girlfriend in a Coma. Stop Me If You Think You've Heard This One Before. Last Night I Dreamt That I Loved Someone. That Somebody Loved Me. Unhappy Birthday, which I love that. I play that. I'll send that out to people. It's a very demented, disturbing. It's Morrissey at his best in the deep, dark, lyrical genius that he is. Unhappy Birthday. If you've never heard it, go play it on YouTube, play it on any streaming service. Unhappy Birthday by the Smiths is a phenomenally insane song. It's just, and then you got Paint the Vulgar Picture, Death to One's Elbow, and I Won't Share You. It's a great final album.
Great final album, but those guys bum me out. Those guys are fools. They're idiots.
They're brilliant.
They should have reformed and played again. They don't have to like each other. They don't even have to go on tour, with one another. But those guys made great music together, and I think that they're going to get to a point where they're going to get beyond their touring ages. And they're going to regret that they didn't get back together and play.
I don't think Morrissey regrets anything. I think Johnny Marr's happy where he is. I think they lived it and they move on. Just like Rick Ocasek said, "I'll never do it again." David Byrne said,
But he did. Rick Ocasek did it again.
Well, he got them together in the studio. They didn't go out on tour together.
Yes, they did.
Did they?
Yeah. Deb and I actually saw them. So that was, post, Ben Orr, passing. And I think I think that was 2011. 2011, they did a tour and they played the House of Blues in Boston, and they were great. Obviously it wasn't the same, and they were never really the most exciting live band. I mean, they were technically proficient, but they weren't jump around,
They were
scissor
boring.
kick.
They were boring.
They got up and they played their tunes.
Like Hall & Oates, you can sit way in the back and you're hearing the same music as the people up front.
Pretty much.
So David Byrne said he'll never do it again, and he's done with it. There's certain artists, that just that's it. And Morrissey has more records in his solo career than the Smiths did. And I believe me, I would love to see them get back together, but there's too much damage done. There was lawsuits, writing credits.
You got to give them credit for one thing. I would imagine that time after time, whether it's the people at Coachella, or any of the festivals that take place in Europe, that they've probably been offered millions, tens of millions of dollars to get back together for maybe even one show, and they've never taken it.
No, Morrissey he's one of those guys, man. He's a man of principle. He just doesn't want.
He's not a man of principle. He's just cranky.
He's cranky. And like I said, Johnny Marr, if he really wanted to, Johnny Marr could call him and say, even if it was just like Page and Plant, you do Marr and Morrissey or Morrissey and Marr, they could have done
the M&M tour.
Yeah, they could have done that, but Morrissey, he's like, nah, that's it, And I wonder,
Morrissey's got, those guys. I mean, they don't. If somebody's offering them, look, we're going to give you $40 million or whatnot, people like Johnny Marr and Morrissey, and they're not like Mick Jagger rich, but those guys don't have to worry about money at all.
No.
I mean, what's Morrissey's got to be worth? I mean, you can probably look it up, but he's got to be worth 60, 80, $100 million.
Probably around 60, 80 million. Yeah. And again, he's just that guy. He's that guy. If he wanted to do it, they would have done it.
It still would have been very cool.
Again, once the lawsuits came, then that was it. He's like, I will never, because that cost him money. And, him and Marr were the typical lead singer, guitarist, writing songs, and no one gets credit, and, but them. And it's an age-old problem in groups. So who else you got? What do you got? Anything?
I actually, so do you want to hear my ultimate, or do you want to hear one that may be somewhat controversial?
Let's do some controversy.
My pick for one of the greatest final albums of all time is also their first album, which is the Sex Pistols record, Nevermind the Bollocks, put out in, Scott, you're going to love this one, 44 years ago. It came out in 77.
Yep.
Check my math. I think I'm right.
Yep.
But, here's a band that, track listings, Holiday in the Suns, Bodies, No Feeling, Liar, Problems, God Save the Queen, 17, Anarchy in the USA, Submission, Pretty Vacant, New York, and EMI. 12 tracks that rocked the world and changed everything. And those guys kind of staying true to the punk edict, the punk spirit, where the band absolutely fucking imploded after that first record. They did just a horrible tour of the United States. They didn't try. They wanted to kind of live up to that punk reputation, and they never put out another record again. Not really. Now, here's where the controversy comes in. You can give them credit for only releasing one record and calling them being very punk. But they got back together in 96 and in 2001, so they toured a bunch of times after that because that's where the money was.
So I'm a purist, right? So you said the Cars got back together, but without Benjamin Orr, it's not the Cars. It's just not, right?
I'm sorry, weren't we just talking about the fucking Sex Pistols?
Catch
up, will you?
Listen. Don't
pay attention, for Christ's sakes.
Don't push the fucking button tonight, buddy. Not tonight. I'm missing the Bruins game.
All right. So let's take a step back before all of that wonderful oration that I just spewed out of my mouth, and let's go back to the Cars. What do you want to say? Go ahead. Entertain us.
You're being fucking condescending. Oh, you son of a fucker. You fucker. Okay.
You dirty fucker.
That's like when you're talking to your kid. Okay, I'm listening to you. Okay, you want me to hear you? I'm listening to you. Tell me what you have to say. No, that's exactly what you just did to me.
Go ahead. Tell me about the cars.
Now, for the people that are listening on the podcast, he put his hands under his chin and leaned in. You're really okay. Okay, wait. Okay, all right. 45 years of friendship. You really know how to push the button. So,
hey, do you know how have you heard me say how I describe our friendship? Well, one of my oldest friends have known him and been friends with him for 45 years and have been on the verge of not speaking with one another for 45 years. This could be it, people. This could be Morrissey and Johnny Marr going their own separate ways. This could be our final album.
You do have the guitar in your hand. So how do you describe our friendship?
It's just like I said.
Morrissey and Marr?
Attention. No. The way that I describe our friendship is I've known Scott for 45 years, and we've been great friends for 45 years, and on the verge of never speaking to each other again for 45 years.
All right.
Different on opposite ends of the spectrum politically, on different topics on polar opposites, and we've had a couple of knockdown drag 'em out, brawls, either through social media or even back in the day.
Yep. So getting to, okay, wait a minute. Scott, the IT guy, says, damn, Jack talks to me that way all the time. Now I realize I've been talked down to. See, Scott, the IT guy, be on Team Scotty over here, not Team Jack. Mm-hmm. Team Scotty. I got your back. I will never disrespect Scott, the IT guy, like Jack.
Scott, I can talk to you any way that I want because you might be the IT guy, but you're not the it guy.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Did you really just... All right, we really went off track on this one. So let's get back to it. So the Cars going on tour were not the Cars because Ben Orr wasn't there. The Sex Pistols getting back together without Sid Vicious. It's not the Sex Pistols. He was an intricate
part. Not true.
He was a personality. He had a gigantic following. He had his own following. It was without him. It's not the original Sex Pistols. It's not.
They went on. See, this is an idiotic statement. They went on tour. The bass player for that tour was Glenn Matlock, who wrote most of the songs on the first record.
Right.
So it's not like they went out and they got a hired gun. And the thing about the car
He's not
show,
Sid Vicious. I'm a purist. I told you that. It's not.
Yeah, but if you're a purist, you're going to go to the original band, which was Glenn Matlock.
Right. But Sid Vicious was the Sex Pistols. You had Johnny Rotten and Sid Vicious. If you ask anybody who name two people in the Sex Pistols, who are they going to say? Johnny Rotten and Glenn Matlock?
You're going to say Glenn Matlock and Paul Cook.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'd want to see that lineup. I'd want to see the lineup.
And you know what? I would have loved to have seen that lineup as well, but they came nowhere near Boston. Not that I've ever would have been able to go in 1977.
No.
And to your point, and this probably goes for both the Sex Pistols and the Cars. You probably had some people say, look, it's not the original band, or you're missing key members, or whatever the case might be. And I was like, yeah, I get that. But, back when I saw that Sex Pistols tour, it was like 96 down at Great Woods with Stabbing Westward and some other band I can't remember off the top of my head. And I was like, look, for $26 or whatever it cost, I just want to hear those songs live. Yeah. And it was fun, and I get it. They were grabbing the cash, but to be able to see as close to the original band as possible and to be able to see them live was a real thrill.
I see that. I learned my lesson, though. I should have fucking known better and waited out in the parking lot. And I talked about this, I think, in episode 4. I learned my lesson by seeing the unoriginal band when I made the mistake of it was 2 years ago because there was no concerts last year. Seeing Alice in Chains back up Korn, who I'm going to see in August. And Alice in Chains without Lane Staley was, I just was, Jesus, they suck. Don't waste your time. Don't buy the hype.
What about, and I don't even know if you're a fan of this band. Would you ever go see Guns N' Roses?
As a matter of fact, the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino right down the street in Hollywood, Florida, they did a pre-sale. I got the message for pre-sale tickets. They're going to be playing there, and no, I won't see them.
Because you're a purist.
I'm a purist. I'm a synthite. Come on, so you're learning a lot about me that you never knew about. Like
Cynthia Lauper.
Synth. Okay, motherfucker.
So, but getting back to the Sex Pistols record, again, the reason why I picked it, great first and great last album, again, in some way, whether they intended it or not, it's really kind of a testament to that punk spirit. And that was it, folks. You got one and done.
Yeah, and that's
it's not like the Ramones that put out record after, and I love the Ramones. But they put out record after record after record after record and just kind of, exhausted their welcome.
Why? Because they all sound the same.
Well, almost like all of the AC/DC records.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
You're ornery tonight. Okay.
Yes, I am.
So let's go real quick. This one doesn't really need a lot of talking about. Maybe, again, one of the great final albums. Well, let me just read the track listing, okay? And it starts off with The Changeling, then Love Her Madly, Been Down So Long, Cars Hiss By My Window, L.A. Woman, La America, Hyacinth House, Crawling King Snake, The Wasp, Texas Radio and the Big Beat, Riders on the Storm, Orange County Suite. That's a bomb last album, buddy.
It's a great record. No question about it. The Doors had gotten themselves into a lot of trouble. Actually, more specifically, Morrison had gotten himself into a lot of trouble with that concert that was just a freaking mess down in your state of Florida.
Yeah, in Miami, right down the street. Yeah.
Where he supposedly exposed himself.
Which he did.
Got arrested. Yeah. And he was in real trouble. You got to remember, very different time. Down in the South, you didn't tolerate that stuff, especially hippies from California. This is the height of the Vietnam War, and the folks down there trying to keep the young kids down and whatnot. So they go and they record L.A. Woman, and when the record gets released, Morrison, I think, was already in Paris at that time. And I think Ray Manzarek actually said that one of the last conversations that he had with Morrison, that Morrison had asked, how's the record doing? Manzarek told him that everybody loves the record. It's, doing really great. Riders on the Storm, Love Her Madly, big hits for that record. And Morrison ended up passing. They never really got to play it live. No,
they didn't. So that's a great final album. Let's get into a little, I don't know if it's controversial. Maybe it is. Is it really their last album?
Whose?
The Beatles, Abbey Road.
Oh, it is that. Are you kidding me? When you actually suggested this topic, that was the absolute first record that came to mind, because that is the greatest coda final statement of that band. Now, I get it. People are going to say, well, wait a minute, Let It Be was their final album. But the reality of it is that Let It Be was actually recorded prior to Abbey Road, and it did not go well. I mean, it was one of the things that really helped break up that band.
You know what it was originally called?
The Get Back Sessions, or Get Back?
Yeah. Well, what helped break it up too was the new manager came in, and that didn't really, McCartney didn't like him, so that didn't help either.
Yeah, there were a lot of things. I mean, look, you think about. Look, I was probably like everybody else in the 70s and early 80s, where like, oh my God, the Beatles broke up. It's the biggest tragedy in music that ever occurred, and they need to get back together. And, obviously they never did. Once John Lennon was murdered, that was the end of that. But, what I think going through like YouTube and listening to the different interviews from the different stations, like the Dick Cavett show, you could get an understanding of why the band broke up. First, they had been together for right around 10 years, recording music, and then prior to that, playing in Hamburg and whatnot. That's a lot of time to spend with three other guys, and all of the adoration and all of the pressure. And those guys worked and worked and worked and worked. I mean, they were absolutely prolific, and they wanted to do other things. Now, it would have been really, really cool if they said, look, we're just going to put the Beatles on the back burner and we're going to go do our thing. And hey, maybe we'll get together. Maybe we'll do a song here or there. It would have been nice if they could have left the door open a little bit. But I think that Abbey Road is the consummate final statement of that band.
Yeah, if it wasn't for Phil Spector, fucking lunatic, Let It Be never would have been Let It Be. It would that Get Back. He came in. That Get Back album was a mess. It was just a mess, and he brought it together. Even John Lennon gave him credit. He said that never would have happened without Phil Spector coming in. And Phil Spector always wanted to do a Beatles album. He always wanted to produce a Beatles album. Well, his personal life is one thing, but his brilliance as a producer can never be, can never be taken away from him. And
no question. And you're right. Lennon, gave Spector a lot of credit for being able to pull that mess together. And it was McCartney actually didn't like it. He hated all of the strings, especially on The Long and Winding Road. But, you can't argue with the fact that The Long and Winding Road was a huge hit for them, and really a great song. And it's not like they didn't use strings before.
Wasn't that the last song they recorded ever?
The Long and Winding Road?
Yeah, it was recorded. That was the last one. That was the last song, supposedly, that they ever recorded. And then it was put together in the album. Like, it was the last song that they did in the studio. Then that was it. They were done with the album. And
you might be right. I can't argue with you, but I'm
not saying it was meant on purpose. Like, oh, let's do this farewell song. Yeah, people like to think that. I just think it was the last album that was put together that they did on, and it was. I think that's the last song on the album, isn't it?
On Let It Be?
Isn't it the last song on the album?
On Let It Be?
Yeah.
I think it is. But I think the thing that I'm looking up is I was under the impression that everything that was on Let It Be was recorded, and that all of the songs on Abbey Road were the last songs that they had recorded together.
Oh, okay. I mean, these are these things that you pick up over the years and you think. But, I mean, neither here nor there. Let's get into a good one. I love this album. Okay? I love this album. I think it's one of the greatest final albums. And it is Synchronicity by The Police.
Shit album.
Here we go.
No, it's not a shit album. I take that back. But then, that band had changed so much over their short career. But go ahead. Tell me why it's a great record.
Well, first of all, if you look back at it, I'm surprised they made it 5 albums. They made it.
Yeah, they were a volatile band, made worse by the fact that Sting, in my opinion, kind of stole some of the writing credit. Got all of the attention. Lead singer, good-looking guy.
Every Breath You Take, the riff, the tune was created by Andy Summer.
Yeah, but who got credit for writing the song?
Right, and Sting actually, and Stuart Copeland really holds that against Sting that Andy Summer. Now Sting gets all the money for that song. Andy Summer doesn't get any credit. He doesn't get any money from that. Sting gets all the money from that song, and it wasn't even. And he wrote the lyrics, but it's usually like Jagger and Richards. You can go down the line, Tyler and Perry, right? So wait
a minute. Let's be clear. Andy Summers gets paid for the songs that are on Synchronicity, including Every Breath You Take. He gets royalties for playing on the record. Sting gets all of the publishing in the
I know how
which is a hell of a lot more money. But
that's what I'm talking about.
I
What?
want to know from Scott McLean why you love that album and what songs you like about it. What songs you like and what you like about those particular songs.
First of all, it's a unique album, right? It's a unique sounding album. You go from Every Breath You Take, Wrapped Around Your Finger, Synchronicity 1 and 2, right? I liked how they kind of start the album off and end the album off, right? King of Pain, Tea in the Sahara, Murder by Numbers on the cassette only, right?
Yep.
That which I loved the fact that they used that because the '80s was a cassette decade. They used that as a selling point. You could only get Murder by Numbers on the cassette. It wasn't on the album, right?
And,
So
and you know, because it was more difficult to get, people really loved that song. But do you like that song?
I do. I thought it was a fucking very clever song. I thought it was simple. It was simple. It wasn't their usual complex, arrangements. But it was just very, and Sting kind of tells
Wait a
us
minute, can you do that again?
right at
That's
the
good.
beginning.
That's good stuff right there.
Yeah. See, you got your
See? And
guitar.
if you were there, you would have offered that to
Well,
Sting. He would have taken it. And you would have got nothing.
Maybe Sting stole that from me. How do you know? How do you know? Right? You don't know. Maybe he stole it from me, and that's because that's the beginning of the song. But anyways, it's just a very unique sounding album. It was separate from how their other albums. It was like you could see that was they grew through each album. Their sound grew, their style grew, and it just the apex was Synchronicity, and I think and they hit it right at the right time.
What
Is there
are
a
your
bad
top?
song on the album? That's the question.
What are your top 3 songs on that record?
I like King of Pain, Wrapped Around Your Finger, and I actually like Tea in the Sahara. I like that. It's kind of a nice. It's a different type. It's very mellow.
It's a very very mellow song.
It's done. I just like it's a nice break in that album, but they're all good songs. They're all good. I mean, even every breath you take is. It took you 1,000 listens to finally say I'm sick of this song, right? You didn't get sick of it immediately. It's like it took you a long time to get sick of that song, right?
It may have taken you a long time to get sick of that song. and I'm not, and I'm not even picking on the song, but I remember how much it got played on radio and on MTV. It was
because people wanted to hear it.
Heavy rotation. That's what we talked last week about, great opening riffs and riffs that you hear that make you turn the station immediately. That was me pretty damn quick.
Really? I like that.
Damn right, fella.
Did you just call me fella? Really? What the fuck? Anyway.
Hey, you deserve fella, Mr. T in the Sahara.
What's the matter? Jealous?
A little bit.
Okay.
It's a good record. It's not my favorite Police record. I liked the older, punkier stuff. I can appreciate some of the songs. The songs that I like on it, Walking in Your Footsteps. I like, Oh My God. I like, a lot. I like the stuff that's probably not played as much. I thought King of Pain was great. It was particularly good live.
Yeah. I think we all saw that show. Flock of Seagulls, The Fix, and The Police.
Yep, that's right.
Sullivan Stadium. That was a long, hot day.
It was a long, long, hot day, but it was fun.
It was fun. All those groups were at their peak. The Fix. They had a little small, five good songs in this set. Maybe 4 if you listen to them, other than their hits on the radio, and then Flock of Seagulls. They had a couple good songs.
Absolutely, and they were great.
Yeah. So okay, let's. So you do like Synchronicity? You do or you don't like it?
I think it's a fine record. It's fine.
Okay, all right. What do you got? You got anything? You got any other albums?
Yeah, I was just looking up, the track listing for it, and this is one that most people probably don't know. or didn't really care about, and that's REM's last album called Collapse Into Now. So Collapse Into Now was a record that they had made with the full intent that that was it. They knew that they were, pretty much done,
Like
and they
Cream.
wanted to make.
Cream did
What's
that.
that?
Like
Huh?
Cream, when Cream said this is our last album, that was their last album. Goodbye. They named it well. So
Yeah.
go, and they never came. They never went back. They never, they got together for their Rock and Roll Hall of Fame thing. But go on. I'm sorry.
Well, so Collapse Into Now. I could list the tracks. Nobody's going to know these tracks.
Right.
Discover All the Best, Uberlin, Oh My Heart, It Happened Today, Every Day Is Your Days to Win, Mine Smell Like Honey, Walk It Back, Alligator Aviator, Autopilot, Antimatter, That Someone Is You, Mr. Marlon Brando, Blue, and Discover, which was kind of like the coda in the track. But I think it's just an underrated, great record, and a band that had kind of lost their way for a little bit. REM was a great American band. Really deeply entrenched in college radio. Kind of came up through IRS, and those first like 4 or 5 records on IRS are just absolutely fantastic. And then they really went commercial. So signed with I think it was Warner Brothers. No, it was either Warner Brothers or EMI. And they had those big records with, Losing My Religion and Everybody Hurts and Shiny Happy People. And then they tried to stay relevant by changing their sound. So they kind of went electronic with Up. And they really lost their way, and they kind of came back in their last 2 records. They tried to recapture their original formula, but by then the music industry had changed and their popularity had waned. They were playing smaller places. They weren't able to fill the big arenas like they had, at least not in America and
They
whatnot. And
flamed
they knew
out.
that their time had come,
Yeah.
and they wanted to make sure that they went out with a record that they could really be proud of. And it's a great record. It's definitely worth a listen if you're an REM fan.
Yeah. But they flamed out, and that happens. Um,
There's another band that broke up, and they swear that they will never play together again, which I think is a real tragedy.
Again, they did their time, right? I guess bands are funny. They make enough money. The motivation isn't really there. Maybe some of these guys are living comfortable lives now,
I
and
just
they play
I don't
side
understand
bands.
I don't understand the line in the sand that they say we're never going to play together, again. Like, so why would you say that? Leave it open, and if 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you want to play a couple of shows, why not?
You don't know the makeup, the behind the scenes stuff. We'll never know, right? So speaking of bands like that, the Verve. I think we talked about them last week. So they the seminal record was Urban Hymns, right, in
Yep.
'97. Phenomenal. And yes, I guess your story was correct. They did eventually. I went back and I'm man enough to admit when I won't say you're right, but I'll just say I wasn't right. I'll never say I wasn't totally correct on my version of the story. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. In
I am the
2008,
king.
they decided to give it one more try. And if you're going to follow up after Urban Hymn, and they came out with Forth, Forth, right? If you're ever going to listen to a Verve album, you want to hear a phenomenal album, that is a great album. And again, it didn't get a lot of airplay, but as something happens when the Verve get together. Individually, they're all brilliant musicians. They're brilliant artists, kind of like a Radiohead, not as technical, not as great as Radiohead, but when they get together, they have this thing, man. It's what makes a band, I would say. And actually, who was it? Chris Martin has said that Richard Ashcroft is the greatest singer in the world.
He's a great singer.
Yeah, and he really is. And people will never know because the Verve never got the level they deserve to be on with publicity, etc. But if people want to listen to a great album, this is my recommendation of the week. Go download, go listen to on whatever streaming service you listen to Fourth. Songs like Sit and Wonder, Love is Noise. And none of these songs are 2-minute songs. They're all 5-minute, 5.5-minute, 6-minute. So you got Sit and Wonder, Love is Noise. Rather Be is probably my favorite song on that entire album. Rather Be is a phenomenal song. Judas, it's a great song. Numbness. Just go listen to the Verve Fourth. The name of the album is Fourth, Forth. I highly, highly recommend it. You won't be disappointed. If you are, email me and tell me I'm an idiot at milkcratesandturntables@gmail.com.
So I know we're starting to run out of time, but one of the areas that we haven't really explored in terms of final albums, and there's a couple of them that I can think of off the top of my head, and those are records by individuals that knew that they were on their way out, and I mean mortally. So you have Warren Zevon that recorded an album called The Wind, that one of the tracks on it is, Keep Me in Your Heart for a While, which is just a
Very,
real
touching song. Yeah.
a real tearjerker.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
mean, what an interesting experience that must be, knowing that, you're making your final statement, and knowing that this is going to be, your epitaph to a certain extent. And another one, and I know that I talk about them all the time, but Queen's final studio album with Freddie Mercury, Innuendo, he knew that he was really, really sick, and they worked hard and tried to, get that record out. And he could only sing a little bit at a time, and had to go and lay down. I mean, it was laborious, and it was painful, and it was really hard for them. But Innuendo is a great record, a great Queen record, aside from the story, aside from, Freddie passing, and aside from that song being littered with, him knowing that his life was going to end, and questioning his own mortality and everything else that goes along with that. But just musically, it's a great record.
Yes. All right.
I think Lou Reed, same thing. There's probably a couple of them. You might even make the same argument with the latter Johnny Cash records.
You know what? We'll pick up like we always do. We'll clean up this week's show at the beginning of the next week's show, and there's always things that people forget. Like, I think we did we talk about the from last week's show intros, right? Did we talk about? Because I had some people emailed me.
We didn't talk about it at the beginning of the show.
We did or didn't?
We did not.
Yeah, so I just want to get these in because I told these people, they emailed me, and I told them. So Jay Giles must have got lost from the live album "Blow Your Face Out," right? That's the intro with Rapunzel, Reputa the Buta, that thing you live in hell. Let me climb up the ladder in your love, right?
Hey, that's pretty good.
See, I got talent. You can play the guitar. See, it's like Morrissey and Marr. See.
I'm not getting back together with you. Sorry, I don't care how much money they've.
Our friend Phil Kelly, his fourth mention in tonight's show, he sent me Steve Miller's Swing Town, right? So Steve Miller has some interesting intros. If you go to his greatest hits, there's like 5 songs. He's the king of intros. He knew how to make an intro, right?
Oh yeah, he did.
And then probably one of the best intros of the '80s was Alan Parsons' project, Eye in the Sky, right? Ding, 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 ding. It became, the Chicago Bulls made it famous if people didn't hear about it, because that was their entrance music, right?
Yeah.
And that was Alan Parsons who produced Dark Side of the Moon. That was him channeling that "I need that money" again. He really channeled that. So listen, let's go a couple minutes over. I have some questions for you.
Ask your questions, young man.
I'm going to ask you some questions. I got a question, okay? I got a question or 3.
I will ponder your question.
All right. If you start in a band, you have a choice. Who would you start your band with, Jimmy Page or David Gilmour?
David Gilmour.
Why?
I think he's a better guitar player.
Really, than Jimmy Page?
Yep.
All right. That's your answer. I might.
Wait. You're saying it like I'm wrong. You gave me
No,
a
no, no,
choice.
no. I would say,
Wait a minute. You gave me a choice. Music is subjective.
okay, you're right.
So, and you know this. This is a loaded question. We've already had a discussion about Led Zeppelin, right? And I do think that Jimmy Page is a great guitar player, but he is a sloppy guitar player, especially live.
But would you say that between Jimmy Page and David Gilmour, well, while David Gilmour is tighter and more technical and he's cleaner, that Jimmy Page would be a great front guitar player to start your band. He's flashier. He's an outstanding guitar player, one of the greatest in the world.
He's an outstanding
Moves,
guitar player.
whereas David Gilmour is kind of that, kind of in the Cars mode. I wouldn't put the Cars and Pink Floyd in the same conversation other than this, trust that. But so, okay, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying I might go with David Gilmour too. I think I could say I think he's a more technical guitar, I think he writes better songs than Jimmy Page. So,
See, I'm not sure that I agree with you there. I think that Jimmy Page is a better songwriter than David Gilmour.
I will pick this up next week. Next question. What makes you like a song? The melody or the lyrics, the singer or the singing?
The funny thing, and I am answering your question, as much as I love music and as much as I know about music, I am not a lyric guy. Like I know lyrics, but there are songs by Led Zeppelin or even Pink Floyd that I've been listening to for 40 years, 50 years, right? And I couldn't tell you what the lyrics are. So I would have to say that I'm more of a music and melody guy.
Well, that's a segment in a show that we could talk about. Maybe we'll do a hodgepodge next week, and one of the topics will be songs that you fucked up the lyrics on for 20 years until you realized you were singing it wrong.
I can answer that question right now. All of them.
So, okay, so you're a melody guy. I think if a song doesn't catch my attention in 30 seconds, which is usually the melody, then I'm pretty much not going to give it a chance. So okay, third and final question of the night. What's your favorite music video?
Okay. You know what? I have a particular fondness for U2's Gloria, and the reason for that was the very first video that I saw on MTV. Now there's a ton of videos that I love. All right, so I'll tell you my favorite. You're probably going to be surprised by this. My favorite music video of all time is by a band called Dirty Vegas. And I think the song is called As Days Go By. I love that video.
Okay. So everybody out there, go check out Dirty Vegas as time goes by. Is that what it is?
As Days Go By.
As days go by. All right. I would say my favorite music video, far and away, the greatest music video ever made. And I used to think it was Sabotage by the Beastie Boys. That is a phenomenal. They sure got MTV Video of the Year for that one. Okay. That's a great. But I think, and there's two versions. There's an edited version and the uncut version. The uncut version is absolute insanity. It's The Prodigy, Smack My Bitch Up. Okay. That video is absolutely, totally, 100% out of fucking control. It goes from everything from, the edited version. They don't show like shooting up the heroin, snorting the coke, getting with the. Watch that video. Just watch that video. And the twist at the end is the greatest twist in music video history. The last 10 seconds of that video are the best 10 seconds. But a very close second is a totally different type of song, totally different artist. It's John Newman, Love Me Again. Okay?
I don't think I know that song.
John Newman's a phenomenal singer. He's like a white soul singer. This guy he's got some style. He's got a voice.
Has he done anything that I would know?
Well, Love Me Again. He's done a couple songs with Rudimental. It's kind of like he's big over in England. He's never really caught on over here. But go watch the video, okay? Love Me Again. Love Me Again by John Newman.
Okay,
It is such a great video in the sense of it's it almost gives me kind of like brings me back to my days maybe with my friends in a bar and I see a girl and they got your back if she's got her boyfriend or one of your friends sees this girl and she's with her boyfriend and his friends and like so go in that the twist in that video will have your jaw will hit the floor.
All right, I'll watch that video and you go watch As Days Go By.
I will, but remember, John Newman, Love Me Again.
Newman.
Watch the video. John Newman, Love Me Again.
Hey, what about the video for Every Breath You Take?
On that note, great show, buddy. Great show.
It was a quick hour.
Yeah, it always is. Actually, we went over an hour. So, yeah, everybody's with Scott the IT guy. Give me my outro, man. Why don't I see my outro up on the screen? You want hot sauce money and you can't put my outro up on the screen? I'm going to give you 5 seconds. Scott the IT guy usually has the outro.
It's there. It's there.
Where is it?
2057.
Oh, there it is. Okay, there we go. My bad. All right, you're still in on the hot sauce money. Still in. You're working your way up the ladder. Thanks, everyone, for watching and listening. Like and subscribe, and have yourselves a great night. There you go. That's my man. Scott the IT guy saves the show. All right, everybody. We'll see you next week.